Donald Trump absolutely lost it in the E. Carroll trial. It was the closing arguments, and all he had to do was sit there, and that was too much. He stormed out of the courtroom during the closing arguments. Walks out of courtroom is one way you can present that. I went with storms out. You could say left in a huff. The term hissy fit could possibly show up in there because it wasn't that he just left. So E. Carroll's lawyer began describing basically the harm that Donald Trump and his not only sexual abuse, which has already been proven in court, but also the defamation has caused to her client. And that's when he left. But before that even happened, the signs were already there that he was not happy with what was going on. So he apparently was looking frustrated with the judge, shaking his head repeatedly when Ms. Kaplan, the lawyer, began describing last May's verdict that found that Mr. Trump had sexually abused Ms. Carroll. He grew more frustrated, scoffing, muttering, and shaking his head. He was literally scoffing. Brett, a scoff is like that's scoffing, right?
I believe
he's literally doing that.
It's not a pout, John. It's an active. It's. I feel like it's onomatopoetic. Like there has to be like a and maybe a grumble. A grumble will prove that a scoff occurred.
Because that's how the body recovers from scoffing.
Yeah,
I think.
it's like it's like sometimes like we don't see the object, we see the light bouncing off the object. So we can like vaguely feel like we know about the scoff, but if it's followed by a grumble, scoff proven.
Definitely. It's like how we can't see the black hole. We can only see the effect it has on things nearby. And Donald Trump is a great example of that for a couple different reasons. But anyway, it wasn't just Trump that decided to make the end of this as ridiculous and unprofessional as every other step along the way was. Alina Habba was warned that she was on the verge of being locked up because you see, she is technically a lawyer in that she went to technically a law school, but she wasn't trained for doing any of this. And her client wants her to do things that they know she can't do. So she's been just trying to do that the whole time, either just stumbling into mistakes or going against the rules as they've been set forth. And so in this case, she kept trying to enter effectively tweets into evidence during her closing arguments. And you can't do that. You can't just put forward new evidence. And she might know that possibly. Again, she technically went to law school, but Donald Trump desperately wants people to focus on these tweets because he knows that if the jury just sees that E. Carroll has a cat named Vagina, then case closed and he's won this thing. So she kept trying to do that and the judge had to tell her to stop or she would be locked up. So there's a lot to be angry about. That's all as of today. Now, since the last time we talked about this yesterday, there were other things that happened that might have led to this simmering anger on the part of Donald Trump. But I wanted to let you know a little bit about this. The account on Twitter, Inner City Press, summed up a bit of yesterday's back and forth about a couple different things. And I don't think that he would have liked much of this. So it began when the judge was asking Ms. Habba if she had any other witnesses. And this is the opportunity where Donald Trump can finally testify. They'd been talking about the possibility that he would do that. And she said, yes, President Trump. To which Judge Kaplan said, I have a few things to say, and that is definitely the case. So Judge Kaplan decided to say there was a trial last year about the truth or falsity of Ms. Carroll's claims. Mr. Trump was listed as a witness, but did not testify. The jury found for Ms. Carroll. There are no do-overs. It's called issue preclusion or collateral estoppel. That's a term I'm not familiar with. They didn't cover it in Suits. But anyway, Judge Kaplan decided to then summarize for the jury what they had found, saying the jury found that Mr. Trump inserted his fingers into her vagina and that Ms. Carroll did not make up that claim, and that Mr. Trump's June 11th and June 22nd statements were defamatory. Now, Mr. Trump may not make any argument against this. Now, he is very much going to try to do that, but I love that the judge had to summarize that. What seems ridiculous, though, to me, Brett, and I want your commentary on this, is they're like adjudicating these specific defamatory claims, but it now seems so ridiculous that we're like, let's talk about how much damage was done on June 11th and June 22nd, when every single day he makes the exact same claims, including today, by the way, and yesterday, and the day before that, but we're talking about June. He might be doing it right now, Brett.
Yeah, I was thinking about like the mindset of many right wingers when it comes to things like election denial and all the stuff that Trump does. It's like they think that if I got in trouble for ever having punched you in the face, that means I can just continually keep punching you in the face. So I got in trouble for face punching, even if that, and it was a BS judgment, but I got in trouble for it. So I'm gonna keep punching you in the face because there's double jeopardy, right? They just don't understand that they can't keep committing the same crime. And as I said on this show, like it puts us in such a weird position where like their argument is that we're overreacting for simply pointing out what's wrong. And that's not how overreactions were. Overreacting and pointing out things, if we're mischaracterizing the thing that was wrong, that's one thing. But like they intentionally do the worst stuff all the time. In this case, like it is judged, he did defame her. And then he just keeps doing the defamation. Like that dynamic is psychotic. And if we point it out, they tell us that we're psychotic. No, you're doing the bad thing. Don't get mad at us because we're saying it. And it's weird that the onus then comes on us to find like fun new ways to seem cool while we point out that like Donald Trump's a bad guy and he shouldn't be president of the United States.
Agreed. And really fast, I'll say there's a similar version of that where you can be led to feel like, wait, am I crazy? And I will admit, so we're talking about the story right now. We've been talking about it all week. And like, you know, I'm not saying that it isn't being discussed. The New York Times will have an article about him storming out. We cited it, you know, and that's good. But like, it seems like nobody else really cares that much about this. Like they care a little bit. They're covering it. But this is the former president already having been found guilty of, let's just call it what it is, and what Kaplan has continually asserted is rape. You know, under the literal definition in New York law, they didn't go for that. They went with sexual abuse, but it's what everyone else defines as rape. And like, we've talked about it for one portion of each of our show. It's one of the 8 to 10 things we talk about in every show. And I feel like we're being weird in that we're talking about it, but he was already found guilty of rape and it barely matters in the election that we're in right now. Why do I have to feel crazy about the fact that I think it's weird that this convicted or now found civilly liable rapist and defamer might be president again? That seems weird to me.
Right, because you have to put it in the context of what they're trying to do and like their objective and then their tactics, right? So like I think this whole thing about like American politics is very similar to sumo wrestling, where like they either are just running at you as fast as they can to try to push you over, or they're doing the Honda 1,000-hand slap. And so they have 1,000 different dumb little petty slaps that they try to do. This is one of them. Like and it's crazy because under any other scenario, if this happened to a president, there would be a giant uproar. Like a consensual relationship involving cigars with an intern, so to speak. Like it was, I guess it wasn't, it was like someone in power and then an intern. That was bad. And Bill Clinton got impeached for it, like literally impeached. And so that's a double standard that they have with Clinton and Trump. And I mean, it's pretty obvious at this point.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.